Like you're in Milan and you're dating an Italian girl and you played a particular piano and you say, oh my God, it was the most beautiful piano I've ever played. Well, take away Milan and the girl, and it might not be the most beautiful piano you've ever played.
Hello and welcome to the Music to Compose You podcast. I am Margaret Wasik, and this is part 2 of my interview with piano tuner extraordinaire Marc Wienert. If you caught the first part of our interview, you quickly learned that this is no ordinary man, and certainly his approach to life from the viewpoint of spending it in front of pianos for most of his adult life is quite extraordinary. And that level of precision, that level of organization is not just for pianos. And in Marc's life, it just bleeds into everything he does. And Marc calls it living a high res life. And it's something that we could all learn from, and something I personally want to attain. A high-res life, according to Marc, is being attentive to detail on a micro level. I'd just like to read a quote from the book where Marc is featured as the main star, Grand Obsession, written by Perry Nyes, a real page-turner. And it's not usual that you have a page-turning book, a New York Times bestselling book about piano tuners, but that's how fascinating this guy is. Okay, so Marc says in this book that, quote, I've been on a quest for an archetypal sound. I had to learn how to make pianos sound ugly first. And when I had figured that out, there isn't a whole lot left to do to make them beautiful. I made millions of mistakes. I wept over pianos on my birthday. It's like making a sculpture, chipping away the useless material to reveal the figure that lies underneath. So poetic. So I hope you enjoy part 2 of my conversation with Marc Wienert.
And any piano can be the best or worst you've ever heard, depending on a lot of factors, okay, including peripheral factors that have nothing to do with anything, like you're in Milan and you're dating an Italian girl and you played a particular piano and you say, oh my God, it was the most beautiful piano I've ever played. Well, take away Milan and the girl, and it might not be the most beautiful piano you've ever played. So getting back to subjectivity, there's a lot of subjectivity, right? In fact, I was going to say, to answer one of your questions, that I kind of take a kind of twisted sort of joy in saying to people, is that I'm a liar. And it's being a really, really articulate liar that lets me achieve what some people propose are my achievements, which is to create a sound or tuning that is unlike other people's tunings, right? But I will add this in. Through years and years of humble listening, I feel like I take my marching orders from the piano itself. So
you're like a piano whisperer in a way.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah, like well, if you flip that around, whatever the piano's whispering, I can hear. And one of the things that saddened me in the journey that my community of peers is taking is that they keep on creating devices that narrow what they're listening to more and more and more. The latest device, I believe, I won't say any names, is able to measure the exact vibrations of the string itself, independent of anything else. It has some contact with the string or something. It's not measuring anything in the air. It's measuring the string itself. And the promotion suggests that gives you the clearest picture of the frequency that you're targeting. And my answer to that is no, 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 no. That's the last thing I'm listening to. I'm listening to many, many other things, and those are the things that guide me, not that absolute number of vibrations per second.
Yeah. There's just so much more that is emotional. I remember on the first lesson you gave me in tuning, the number one thing you said, the first step is to make a connection. It blew my mind with that.
Well, when you're tuning intervals, an emotional connection is absolutely essential. And unless you have an emotional connection to the interval you're tuning, even if you can end up with a usable interval, you won't really understand what you've done or why you've done it. You know, you're following a set of rules, or you're adhering to some arithmetic that's been done, you know, for the electronic tuning device, or you know, however you're operating.
So because of these open fields, so there are many parameters a person could take. So you're saying the one parameter is purely mechanical measurements, but that gives you a very, very small part of the puzzle. And then there's the other one, which is a more inclusive, taking into consideration what the piano is telling you. What else is there? Like, so there's the string, but when you say measuring what's in the air, what is in the air? Take 2 symphonies and call me in the morning. Those are the words expressed by Elena Manis in her book, The Power of Music. My friend, let me ask you a question. Have you been using the power of music in your health and wellness journey? If not, then there's no better time than now to jump in. Because we live in a modern time that is filled with noise, where finding peace and clarity can sometimes seem impossible. However, by tapping into the notes of classical music and the timeless messages of wisdom found within, we have a powerful transformational tool that we can use today. But you might be thinking, well, classical music has never been my thing. How do I connect to it? How do I listen and actually like it, engage with it, and have it be a reflection of my feelings and emotions? Welcome to the Music to Compose You podcast. Here we connect the dots, bringing together the beautiful masterpieces of classical music, the stories behind the compositions, and the composers that wrote them. The benefits of classical music are sky high. From reducing stress and anxiety to boosting concentration and creativity, classical music harmonizes your mind and body, elevating your everyday experiences. And you can try it right now. Feel the soothing melodies wash over you, improving your mood, enhancing your cognitive abilities, and promoting restful sleep. Let the melodies of Mozart, Beethoven, and Bach be your companions on a journey to wellness. Download Sound Sleep, a collection of soothing piano masterpieces that soothe your nervous system and harmonizes the brain, creating an atmosphere of peace just perfect for bedtime. Try it by going to musictocomposeyou.com. And while you're there, be sure to join the newsletter where I share the latest behind the scenes footage of the podcast and access to special events, concerts, and goodies reserved just for subscribers. So thanks so much for being part of the Music to Compose You family. We are embarking on a fun journey. I'm so happy you're here for the ride. Let's let our soul song sing and see what this music reveals to us about ourselves. Inclusive, taking into consideration what the piano is telling you. What else is there? Like, so there's the string, but when you say measuring what's in the air, what is in the air?
Well, let's start with the very basics. There's the higher partial content or overtone series that that particular hammer is able to give voice to. Well, it's a really big conversation. There's signal, there's noise. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Let's say that the device I described measures only signal. But the fact is, there's signal and noise. So if you're trying to align signal only without taking into account noise, then you're never going to really find the right alignment.
Yeah.
Like that alignment might work perfectly on a keyboard, for example, where noise has been minimized compared to an acoustic piano where there's lots of noise. There's noise from the mechanism, there's noise from the hammer, there's noise from the string, from the termination points of the string, from oxidation on the string. And then there's the way the piano amplifies the sound, which isn't pure in and of itself. There's noise introduced there. And then there's the way things are sounding in the room, and the position of the piano in the room. And I think it was fair to say you might do a different tuning if you're listening to what the piano is telling you, if you were to move the piano. Now, if you're only tuning to little circling lights or bars that are moving, towards the left or towards the right, then it's not going to know that the piano is in a different spot in the room. But you, piano tuner using your ears, will know that the piano is in a different spot in the room, and you will hear the piano differently. So if I'm hearing the piano differently, so is the pianist going to hear the piano differently. So it's incumbent upon me to do a tuning that is going to align with how the pianist themselves is going to hear the. Now, big asterisk. Just because you move a piano doesn't mean you need to retune it.
But you will hear it differently.
But you will hear it differently. But most people say, when they say, oh, I'm going to move the piano, I have to tune it again, are referring to changes in climate or rough handling during the move or whatever. It's a completely different topic. So I don't want people to get confused. We're talking about a sound field, that exists in a room that's being excited by the sound pressure energy that the piano is introducing into the room.
Oh yeah.
And let me just tell you, sound field math, I need to go back in time 60 years or 50 years and go back to school. Those guys are rocket scientists.
Wow.
Okay.
I mean,
so understanding the mechanics and dynamics of sound field expression is, pretty beefy stuff. Guess what? I don't need to know any of that, though, for the piano to tell me what to do.
And you are, in my eyes, a sound designer. You bring so much artistry into it, but your upbringing also had a lot to do with it because you're the son of a prima ballerina. You were raised in France, and you've got many other talents as well. You record, you're a recording engineer. You also are an amazing chef, right? So tell us a little bit about your childhood and the artistic impressions made on you that you also bring to the table every time you are in front of a piano.
Well, so everything you just mentioned, the devil's in the details, getting back to that expression.
Right.
So yeah, I thrive in environments where details matter.
Yeah.
And so I guess it appeals to my own personal senses of fulfillment, as a human being, to operate in a high-res environment where details matter.
Yes.
Well, ballet is the mother of all arts as far as details matter.
Mm-hmm.
Because ballet dancers are using their bodies. In other words, painters can paint a brilliant painting with a paintbrush in their mouth.
Right.
Okay. But a dancer doesn't have any of that kind of offering. They're either 100% in tune with every muscle in their body. They're aware of the fact that they can use different muscle groups to achieve the same movement. And yet there's subtle differences in that movement if they're using the air quotes right muscle group to do it. In other words, the wrong muscle group isn't going to look graceful, and the right muscle group will look graceful.
Yeah, I once took a paint.
Gymnasts aren't really ballet dancers, although there's plenty of crossover, in athleticism and so on and so forth. There's something about how ballet and the way ballet dancers move and the way they combine muscle movement and so on and so forth, all using grace, I guess, as their target, that they're aiming towards. And if I may interpret something that you've said many times, use the golden tone to create a piano technique, I would say use grace to create a ballet dancer.
Right. You start from the building block. Yeah. It's funny.
You reverse engineer it.
You reverse engineer it. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like I once took a painting class with a student of Wolf Kahn who was describing what you're saying about ballet and the details and finding such inspiration for his painting from watching ballet. And then a student asked, what are you seeing? Like, what do you see when you, because he said, oh, that dancer out of those 20 dancers on stage, that one, the third from the right, was the most perfect of them all. And nobody could distinguish that except he had an eye for it. And they asked, what are you seeing that we don't see? And he said, did you see how her fingers were shaped and how she finished the movement, the line with her fingertips? He noticed that one little detail of the fingertip that was just so extra.
Mm-hmm.
And that did it for him. So yeah, this is such a fascinating discussion about what you call the high res environment. The devil is in the details, and what opens up, what unearths when we get there. And it's funny, I'm a knitter, and I always was pretty much like a process knitter, like, okay, a product knitter. Like, I want that sweater. I want it to be done. Let me just get there. And for a long time, I was just knitting quick. And there was this expression that, oh, well, even if that stitch is a little bigger than the other stitch, the tension is maybe not as even as it could be, it'll block out, which means once you put that wool into water, it kind of evens out and nobody will know. Until one day, I had a friend who was Portuguese, and she had the most perfect knitting that you could not even, I thought it was machine knit. I couldn't believe stitches could be that even. And she held herself accountable to every stitch. And that was such an inspiration to me. And it changed my knitting. I unraveled the entire sweater I was working on. I'm like, this time I'm going to go for this high res kind of detail.
Well,
and I
back
never,
to the 98 to 99.9%.
it's
and
all
your
the
original
difference.
knitting was always at 92%.
Yes, it was. And I was,
but by the way, your original knitting provides a survival advantage that the other version of knitting doesn't.
oh yeah,
As you seek the sublime, and really what we're talking about is seeking the sublime in any environment, right? The sublime doesn't necessarily correlate anthropologically to a survival advantage. And that's what I think makes us human, is that we're willing to sacrifice a survival advantage for an aesthetic. I guess, is that a description of art? A very sort of bare bones description of art?
I believe
Possibly?
it
I
is.
don't know.
Yes. It certainly is for music because we don't need music to survive. And yet we seek
Ooh,
it.
there might be somebody who will argue about that, but
I mean, even the two of us will say, "Oh, I need it to survive," but it's not your basic essentials for survival, like food and water and shelter and all that
no,
stuff.
it's
But
not in the hierarchy of needs that are considered before higher level activity can occur.
correct.
Right.
But yet humans are programmed to seek this out. It's such a part of us. So we are seeking the sublime. And what is so fascinating is, having met you, I sought the sublime in the things I was doing because I kind of was stuck in a lot of things at like the 92%. And sometimes I would actually just be content at 92% and then wondering, not in everything, but in some things, like even in cooking. Like, for instance, you showed me what 98% in cooking looks like when, for instance, at first I would roll my eyes and I thought you're crazy. Like when you talked about making Thanksgiving stuffing and taking fresh thyme leaves and like for me, I would just take a sprig of thyme leaves and just roll them off and just throw them in the pot. But not you, Marc Wienert. You take each one, right, off the twig, each one delicately, and then you deal. Like that's just one example of living at that 98%. What does it's like living at 98% could make a person either thrive or it could get so out of balance that you can't even leave the house because one becomes sort of OCD. How do you find that balance?
Well, first, give up your retirement, and then you can go for the 98 to 99% all the rest of your life.
But you don't do 98% with everything.
Animal on the planet that even thinks retirement is a thing.
Yeah, I don't.
Every other poor animal works for a living till it takes its final breath.
Oh God, I have a cat who's like poor thing, like about 16 years old now, and this cat has this difficult arthritis in her shoulder, and I mean, caught the most ridiculous mouse outside. It's an outdoor cat. I mean, this cat keeps going, doesn't need to. I mean, gets fed and everything, but still is at it. You're right.
Well, it has a powerful prey impulse that no amount of human domestication can really erase those genes.
And but it's not even taken into consideration like this hurts or I'm too old to do this. I should stop doing this. It's just still by the impulse of life going forward. So,
right.
Yeah, no retirement for cats.
Definitely. No retirement, for OCDs like me. Right.
Yeah, but there's like a point. You're not OCD. I would not say you're OCD.
Okay,
you're just
enough.
Living in that 98. There's a distinction because you don't go crazy over it, although you are not afraid to take the time that it takes. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
You give yourself that long.
Right. So it goes beyond a commercial version of the particular activity. Like in art. I mean, when you're an artist, you're never done.
You're never done.
You're never done.
But at the same time, you tune fast. You've gotten to that level of mastery where, I mean, I'm a novice. And when I'm in front of a piano, oh God, it's like 4 hours just fly by and I'm still not done. But you're, at that mastery point. So you're operating with the pianos at like that 98.
Right.
but you're getting it done really quickly. That's the
Let's
mastery.
say I'm not losing any time with pitch selection, because pitch selection, is it's just a game for me. It's like playing tic-tac-toe. It's not like chess. You don't have to spend 5 hours contemplating your next move.
Yeah.
If you're taking your marching orders from the piano, they're clear. Even if you're taking your marching orders from a machine, they're clear. But the finesse of manipulating the physical environment, that's where I'm able to be fast.
Yeah.
Because I'm able to achieve the desired frequency in a way that will be durable very quickly.
We've worked on a lot of projects in the past, everything from retuning the pianos, recording projects, films. One of the most interesting that we collaborated on is one that I featured on the very first episode of the podcast, Ancient Wisdom of Music. And it was a project that I said, only Marc could do this. And it was a crazy idea. I went to you a few years ago with the 6 sacred solfege frequencies, which were 396, 417 hertz, 528, the miracle and transformation frequency. I have all this, by the way, on the Music to Compose You website. So you can read up on all these frequencies and their benefits, but it's never been done to have these frequencies playing all together on a piano. And I came to you, Marc, and I said, Marc, would this be possible? Can we get these ancient frequencies together on one piano? And you said, let me work on it. And at the end, you made it happen on my Yamaha piano. Let's just talk about your steps. Like, how did you go about doing that? It's never been done before. A lot of math, right?
Well, no. The pressure points were really what the strings themselves could do, because the speaking lengths weren't designed to optimize those particular frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to find a way to distort a system that was designed for a particular set of frequencies and distribution of those frequencies, and just ask the piano to do things it was never intended to do, and to do it carefully enough that I didn't hurt your Yamaha.
Right.
Destabilize it, yeah, you bet I destabilized it.
Yeah.
But I don't believe I did any lasting damage to it.
Oh, no. But we talked for months and months over this project, and even deliberated, because it felt to me very almost dangerous. And I'll say it reminded me of when Beethoven's Fifth Symphony was premiered in the 1800s, and one composer was in the audience, and he left the building like so highly excited and agitated at the same time, sweating profusely. And somebody asked him, like, what just happened in there? And it was such an energetic surge through that symphony that he was feeling it. It was almost like being hit by lightning. And he said, this is what happened there. And then he's added that he wasn't sure even if this music should be written, which makes me wonder, what is he talking about? I guess to me, it translated as it was so impactful. It was so electric. Now, when you finally were able to figure all this out and put it on the piano, and we finally said, okay, let's do this, which took a lot of deliberation, because I felt the same way. Like, what will happen? Will we explode? Will we get into another like megaverse or something? Like, will we enter another dimension? I really thought that would happen. I wouldn't be surprised if it has the potential, because it was such an experience playing this music. I sat down to this piano and I very naively thought I could sit down and play a Mozart sonata on this piano and just listen to how different it would sound. And I was quickly showed that that won't work. To bring a Western type of approach to this type of sounding piano, it would require a whole new type of musical writing, which I created a piece for that piano. To me, I still listen to it with fresh ears, and I've put it out there on YouTube. People have said things like, it's so otherworldly. I don't know where this is from. It makes me feel, the description of how people feel while listening to it is really incredible. Like, I feel transported. I feel like in another world. It's the power of vibration that is so intriguing. And for you as a tuner to be in front of these instruments, to be interacting with this power, right? With this surge. I mean, I've sat in front of the pianos you've tuned for me and just played the 528C that you put on my piano, which is known for its healing benefits. And I have seen from the first moment that it was causing a change, that my plants were growing better. I'm not even like very good with plants, but suddenly they were growing. And suddenly my dog, who had Lyme's disease at the time, is coming up to the piano, putting its paw on the leg of the piano, feeling those vibrations pass through. And then lo and behold, 3 days later, the dog is not limping. I noticed some really incredible things with birds, where I would now play this piano and birds that never really seemed to like gather by the window would suddenly gather. And so there's something to this. Do you think that there is a deeper power to all these vibrations and alignments, Mark?
Well, so this is clearly an inflection point in the conversation, which calls to mind, some discussion between absolutism and relativism from a philosophical point of view. For example, as applied to those solfeggio pitches, those pitches find their truths in absolute. When we tried to get them to play together in the hot tub, so to speak, of a piano, it was a very different kind of engagement, right?
Yes, for sure.
So now, I do somewhat provocatively say to my clients, vibrational universe, vibrational entities, piano, one of the greatest vibrational devices ever created, to try to provoke them into a line of thinking that maybe you're trying to sort of shift towards right now, that there is something deeper going on here. And anything I would say beyond this point, would not be, double blind, peer verified information that I can, placebo controlled, peer verified information that I can, share with anyone. Sure, I've had my own journey in life that's been marked and molded, by my own experiences. And getting back to something I said earlier, the impact that playing with these vibrations has had on my thinking, my experience of life, my experience of myself, is a relatively unique set of circumstances that anyone can claim to fame for. Everyone is completely unique, right? So, yeah, do I think that vibration has impact? You bet I do. Do I think that vibration is the brick and mortar of the universe? You bet I do. I think it is. And, I could just start spewing out, stuff that could easily be shot down, like the word logos, the word, I could start, drawing religion into it. You know what I mean? Here's the one thing I'll say in response to that is I think that an understanding of vibration will cause a collision between science, religion, and philosophy, and will unite them into a whole, a picture of what everybody's been looking for. The one little bit of the one theorem that will unify our concept of the universe, of humanity, of the whole material world and spiritual world, and everything all combined into one. So I think vibration is the path that will take us to that unification.
Do you think it's happening now in our time?
I think it's been happening all along. And it doesn't need our awareness in order to happen. But it has an impact on our awareness of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But gravity doesn't need my agreement to cause an object to fall to the ground. Right?
Scriabin, the Russian composer in the late 1800s, he had a theory of music. He really thought that if everybody could get into the same vibrational alignment and make the same music at the same time, that it would cause the earth to go into like a fireball and we would enter another ecstatic state.
I'm with him up to the point where he specifically predicts things like fireballs and stuff like that. But I'm all in.
I don't know about the fireball part. Yeah. I might be adding that.
I'm all in up to that point, right? For sure. And I mean, it would be easy enough to say, well, if every human being on Earth would do more for their neighbor than they did for themselves, kaboom! It would change everything. It's like the rabbi story that I told you many years ago about the difference between heaven and hell.
Yeah, tell that.
Yeah, okay. I won't tell it rabbi style, which is milking the details and allowing everyone's. I'm just gonna kind of go straight to the point. So forgive my how quickly I do this, but both in heaven and hell, there's a banquet room. Both in heaven and hell, there's a huge round banquet table. Both in heaven and hell, there are people seated all the way around the circle of the banquet table. And both in heaven and hell, there's a huge, fabulous, body-feeding, soul-feeding banquet there for the taking. Ironically, or sadly, both in heaven and hell, all the people are afflicted with an elbow disease that will not allow them to bend their elbows. So when they take the food into their hands, they're unable to bring the food to their mouth and eat the food because their arms are straight and they're unable to bend their elbows. So in hell, everyone is there before the wonderful feast with their straight arms holding the food and crying and bemoaning their fate that they're unable to benefit from this fabulous moment in their lives. And everyone in heaven is facing their neighbor all the way around the whole circle, and with their straight arms, they're perfectly able to feed their neighbor all the way around the circle, and they are being fed by the person on the other side of them with their straight arms. And everyone in heaven is getting to enjoy.
Wow. I can't think of a better way or better note to end this podcast on than that. Vibration as a tool to help, to feed, to nurture our neighbor, to uplift the human soul and spirit and condition. And you do that, Marc, through the gifts that you share, through the piano and through your life and the way you speak of it. is so eloquent, and it's really such a blessing. Thank you so much for being on. And where can people find you if they are interested in hearing more about the work you do?
Oh my God, they shouldn't even try to find me.
You're such a bad, but you're a self-promoter. Give me a break.
Okay,
Okay, I'm going to
well,
say it. I'm going to say it.
now live in another state, North Carolina, and I'm doing business under the name Piano Potential.
There you go. Okay, Piano Potential in North Carolina. So thank you so much, Marc. This has been such a joy.
All right, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of your world. I really appreciate it.
If you're a piano learner of any age or level and feel blocked in your playing, I have some good news for you. Do you get tired of hitting the same notes over and over again? Does your progress feel stagnant no matter how much you practice? Worse yet, do you feel disconnected to the music you're playing and starting to feel tension creep up your forearms, hands, and shoulders? For many piano players, poor technique and tension can hold them back from reaching their full potential. But fear not, because there is a solution. Introducing the Golden Tone Technique, the revolutionary program designed to unlock your true potential and transform your playing. You'll learn proven techniques to release tension in your body, allowing you to play with greater ease and fluidity. The Golden Tone Technique is an integrated body, mind, and spirit approach to piano playing based on archived methods from the 19th century. On a personal note, I'm a classical pianist, and my road to Carnegie Hall was far from simple. Because of tendinitis, at age 19, I had to stop playing completely. I thought I would never fulfill my dream of becoming a concert pianist until I discovered an archive method and approach from the past that was based on the power of piano tone. When I learned this secret, it released all the tension in my body and allowed me to express myself in a way that I hadn't known possible. It was the ticket to true pianistic freedom. A big problem in modern piano playing methods, the kind usually popular on YouTube, is that they follow a more is more approach. Whether it's the promise of learning 10 songs in 1 week or racing to play scales as fast as possible, they miss one crucial part of the puzzle. When you know this secret, it unlocks a world of joy at the piano, where you connect to each and every note, playing with a newfound ease, accuracy, confidence, and creativity. Try it right now with a 3-part free video training on musictocomposeyou.com/goldentone. Here's some testimonials from people that have watched this free training. Mick from Australia said, "I can't describe in words what I got out of these videos. In fact, it was like a blockage was released. It was so special to me." Joel from South Carolina said after watching, quote, "I started playing better almost immediately. I highly recommend this." Rodney from Washington said, "Margaret's enthusiasm, passion, and knowledge provided me with new musical skills I thought I would never achieve." Break through to the next dimension of your piano playing, no matter what level you are at, and have dream experiences at the instrument every single time you touch a piano key. To experience it today, watch the free 3-part training on musictocomposeyou.com/goldentone.